There was only one thing to do. I levitated out my sword and slowly drew the razor edge along my mouth. Fortunately, I was able to hold off the screaming until the cut finished. For several moments, I could only stand there in the flow, breathe, and bleed. Unfortunately, the robots weren't going to give me much time for that. There were sprinklers washing the pink cloud out of the air, but that was simply making it easier for the robots to see me. I looked up at the shocked faces of P-21 and Rampage and followed the catwalk with my eyes until I saw where the stairs dropped down. How the heck did I get all the way over there? I backtracked through the dulge, still feeling lousy as the toxic water surged around my legs, running along the rows of conveyor belts as a trio of protective ponies sprayed crimson beams around me. Okay, this is a little too much, I muttered. I struggled to keep myself low and above the surging, poisonous pink water. I peeked over the edge at the robot standing at the far side. I heaved a barrel and bathed the machine in rainbow sludge. The protective ponies barked and flashed, then looked around. It touched a hoof to its cheek. My goodness! I've suddenly attained sentience! I have hopes, dreams, a destiny! The other two robotic ponies turned towards the dosed machine. Error! And then they proceeded to hose it down with their scarlet beams. It waved its metallic hooves dramatically. Egads, I'm done! Then it exploded. Well, it wasn't exactly what I'd expected, but it did provide me enough of a distraction to reach the stairs. Good throw, I said to P-21, but he just stared at me. Does any pony see the shaft below? I rasped. Oh, sweet Celestia, my mouth hurt. They stared at me in horror, and I hissed, Yes, I know, I look like shit. I feel like shit. Do you see a way down? Over there, I think, Rampage said as she pointed through the dulge to a square staircase dropping down near the base of the cylinder. Right now, the shaft was functioning much like a drain. Already the sprinklers had washed enough of the pink cloud out that I could see the far side of the production floor. That meant the small army of robots over there could see me. We ducked low as minigun rounds and crimson beams lanced up at us. Even Boo knew to hit the deck. I saw that Rampage had put my battle saddle on the pale mare and was holding the wires connected to the bit like a leash. Psycho Shy was tied to the blank's back. I looked at P-21. Okay, tell me you still have that balefire egg bomb? He dug in his bag and pulled out the flashing dark rainbow orb. He duct-taped it to a block of plastic explosives. I was barely able to lift the detonator with my magic, as I held the block in my hooves and scanned the machinery. Where was it? A prismatic rainbow beam sliced through the air and nearly cut the catwalk in two. It sparked off the star metal cylinder as I scrambled back and jumped inside next to the twisted statue. I peeked out, and a rain of Gatling grenades detonated in deafening thunder. I have to admit, this is quality entertainment. Discord laughed as I rubbed my ear, and tried to ignore the fact that it wasn't the right shape anymore. Shut up, I said as I peeked out again, and saw the Ultra Sentry driving through the conveyor belts as it circled around to fire into the space I occupied. I didn't have long. I poked my head out and screamed to my friends, Get down the shaft! Hurry! I kept the block in my hooves as I watched the Ultra Sentinel rolling around, tearing up whatever passed under its heavy wheels as it got into place. That's quite a throw, even for metal legs, Discord observed as I lifted the block of explosives. Shut up, I hissed as I watched my friends. They were at the stairs. The robots all seemed occupied with me. Celestia's dead, I said as I watched for the opportunity. So I gathered, he began. Shut up, I snapped. Luna's dead. Twilight Sparkle and Golden Blood are both dead. There's enough chaos and discord in the wasteland to choke 1,000 spirits like you. Chaos is boring in the wasteland now, Discord. Death is fucking boring. It's routine. There was a pause, and the voice inside the statue murmured, I don't understand what you're getting at. I'm saying that this is your chance, Discord. And it was my chance, too. Do better. and I stepped out and heaved the explosives as the sentinel turned to point that prismatic cannon at me. My throw was true. The balefire egg landed exactly where I needed it to, right against the flux extraction pump number 26. I dove aside, and inside to Discord's alcove as the prismatic beam flashed, and as it swept back and forth inside the space, I pressed down on the detonator. Instantly, my world became light and sound, and a roar that was broken only by the crackling of my pip-buck. The star metal shielded me from a direct force of the explosion, but it couldn't protect me from the ample radiation. But all that was secondary. The pillar was untouched, but the pump was vaporized. I stepped out in time to see a rolling, glowing green mushroom cloud dissipating in the rain. Now a spray of rainbow gunk spurted out of the production room. The catwalk was so much twisted scrap, and the Ultra Sentry was right below me now. Any second, it'd lob grenades in. I could close the hatch, but that would probably seal me in here forever. So I did what I did best. Something stupid. I launched myself into the air, twisting as it tried to adjust its aim fast enough to vaporize me. Gravity was faster. I landed atop its rounded back, my legs scraping against its smooth rainbow paint job. If I'd had bones, my legs probably would have snapped from the fall. I still felt as if I'd wrenched something inside as I rolled over and over again, falling off its rear and landing with a splash in the frothy, filthy water. It turned as I struggled to lift my hooves. I needed 5 pounds of scrap metal, 10 pounds of aspirin, and a few days to rest and recover at this point. I had about 5 seconds, as the robot wheeled itself around and pointed the prismatic cannon in my face. I stared at the pretty rainbow light about to annihilate me. At least it would be quick. Suddenly, the massive machine lurched as blue foamy water exploded beside it. The explosion twisted and congealed into a bluish, blobby form of the mishmash creature in the cylinder. Discord stood next to the robot as it turned towards the greater threat. For some inexplicable reason, Discord has a large S on his chest, and a wavy red cape billowing in the rain. "For truth and justice and chocolate milk rain," he declared boldly. The Gatling grenades purred, blowing the mass apart as I struggled to my feet. But Discord just reformed, pulling himself into the shape of a giant lizard, dragon thing, and breathed rainbow flames on the machine. The prismatic beam sliced the lizard in two. Discord hadn't been lying after all. 2 centuries of being encased had weakened him badly. But all that was secondary. Above me, the pony-sized explosive charges were suddenly blinking red lights. Containment had failed. I staggered through the sloshing water as Discord kept the Ultra preoccupied. And then a blue carpet lifted me up and whooched me across the production floor to where my friends had been pinned by the robots. It battled the machines aside, then scooped up my friends and deposited us at the top of a diagonal shaft sloping down. The lift was awash with water pouring down it. I hoped it still worked. 2 large pipes ran along the ceiling, down to the depths. The end of the carpet became a tiny, wan Discord. "Why?" he asked as he looked up to me. "I never agreed to help you." I stared at him for a moment, then shrugged. "It's just what I do. I believe in second chances. No matter how stupid they are," P-21 muttered, half annoyed, and half smiling at the same time. Rampage held Boo's leash as the water continued to pour down. The little blank pony didn't like this at all. Her ears drooped as the toxic water splashed around her. She seemed to know that staying close to the striped filly was better than being alone. "Ah, you're friends," he said, perking a little as he hopped up on Rampage, then looked suspiciously at the blue stallion and adopted his scowl perfectly. I couldn't help but smile. Then he appeared next to Boo's head. "Hello!" he called into an ear, an echo sounding over the splashing water. He stuck half his body in her ear and looked out at us from her clear, pale eyes, waving. The blank scrunched up her face and rubbed at her ear with a hoof. "Hey," I said with a small frown, and he pulled himself out with a small pop. "So very sorry," he said immediately. "Nice girl, but not too bright." Then something began to sound, and Flim's Flam's voices warned me not to panic and to run for my life. Calmly. The Ultra was rolling towards us. No, towards the shaft. "Hurry!" Discord panted as he looked back at the machine. "This thing is no fun. While I'd love to turn it into tapioca pudding right now, I'll be lucky to slow it down enough to get buried down here." "Will you be okay?" I asked, and the tiny Draconius blinked and actually blushed. "You really do care? How interesting! I never thought it possible. Well, being buried alive in rock is a huge step up from being buried alive in metal that's slowly killing me with drills stuck in me," he said as a dozen holes appeared in his tiny body. "But I should be okay. Ish. No, I think it'll be a nice long vacation before I ever am close to my old self. But still." Then he grabbed my head, held it firmly, and pressed his lips to mine with a loud kissing sound. Finally, breaking it, he grinned. "Thanks." The tiny Discord disappeared in a pop of glowing white, and I was left sitting there for a few seconds. The only thing I could think of at the moment was how surprisingly long his tongue was. And then a giant, fat Discord rose up from the sudsy water, wearing a strange diaper. "Oi!" he said as he stomped one fat leg and then the other, setting himself in a squatting position. "Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto!" he roared as the Ultra slammed into the huge Draconius. The Ultra gave a electric squawk as its wheels spun in futility, while Discord slapped repeatedly with his lying paws and eagle claw. This was our cue to get out of here. There was a lever on top of the shaft. I struck it, and immediately the platform began to descend the steep shaft. A row of red emergency lights was the only illumination as we dropped. Before he disappeared from sight, I caught Discord's eye as he was slowly pushed back by the Ultra. He grinned widely, winking at me. Then he gave one last cry, "Banzai!" and the entire lift shook as an immense explosion went off above us. A great wind blasted past, carrying water and dust and chemicals as a roar began to rumble. I had an image of the entire Hippocampic Research Building collapsing into an immense hole right above me as the lift plunged down into the earth. Of course, there was a saying about frying pans and fires. Personally, I'd never used much of either, but I could appreciate the sentiment, especially now as my chest began to burn painfully. Instantly, my friends started to sway and droop. Enervation. Lots of it. We were getting into depths compared to our previous jaunt into the city, the one that had almost killed all of us. Fortunately, despite the pain in my chest, I didn't feel the draining lethargy I had before. It hurt, but it was a distant hurt, and instead of passing out, I felt a faint ringing in my ears. A rumbling roar overhead quickly drowned it out as the pressure grew and grew above us, the flow slacking off. Then a prismatic beam sliced down the center of the shaft, bathing it in a glaring light. From the top of the inclined tunnel, two glaring lights flashed down at us. Discord had been succeeding in burying the Ultra Sentinel with him. It was coming down, and fast. "This thing is really starting to piss me off!" I screamed as I looked around the platform. Nothing we could use to hide behind, and that beam could cut through anything anyway. There was only one thing I could think of. Something stupid. Again. "Jump!" I shouted as I ran and grabbed Boo. The mare just stared, as if even she could manage to do, I'd do something even crazier. I leapt off the edge of the lip, landing on my back on the water-select concrete. "That's lemming talk!" Rampage shouted as she leapt after me. I should have gone with glory, P21 agreed, as the five of us plunged down the shaft together while the Ultra Sentinel crashed into the lift. The prismatic beam flashed again down over the edge as we flew down the shaft, evading death for a few more seconds, however we could. P21 slammed into me, Boo, and Psycho Shy. "Is this part of the plan?" he screamed as we slid. "Yes!" I yelled back. "Your plans suck!" he bellowed at me as we gained speed.